Welcome to the Spiritually Lit meeting. Each week, we are honored to host powerful speakers from around the world, sharing their stories, experience, and hope with us. All of our speakers are recorded and shared through our YouTube channel so the message can reach those who need it. If you are listening to this recording and you're struggling, seeking help, or simply have a question, please don't hesitate to reach out. You can contact us anytime at spirituallylit24@gmail.com, and we promise to get back to you. Tonight, we have invited Peter M. to share his experience on the topic spiritual growth through steps 10, 11, and 12 for the next 45 minutes. After that, the meeting will be open for sharing back. Peter, we will give you a sign 10 minutes before the time is up. Thanks so much for making the time and coming on. I've heard a few of your tapes, and I know you make an effort to be here with us tonight and share your experience. So I'm really looking forward to your share. So with that, I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you so much. My name is Peter, recovered alcoholic.
Hi, Peter.
Thank you. Grateful to be here. Thank you for the invitation and get to share the good news that was brought to me. And anyone who's new, just coming back, welcome home. Loving God separated me from alcohol on June 23rd, 1988. And I'm very grateful to be a member of good standing and to get to practice these principles in all my affairs. I do have a sponsor. His name is Bob Bazan. He lives in St. Paul, Minnesota. And I do have a home group down here in beautiful Boca Raton, Florida, called No Problems, Just Solutions. And we meet on Wednesday nights at 7:30. And I'm currently sponsoring 10 guys. And God has me quite busy in the center of Alcoholics Anonymous. So I'm grateful for all these things. It's a long way from where I was in 1988. I was just having a discussion early this morning. I'm up at like 5 a.m. and I have some of my sponsees call 6 or 7 in the morning, and we were having a conversation about what it was like, what happened, and where we're like, what we're like now. And I was sharing with him, I wasn't a terrible problem growing up, but something shifted in me when alcohol and narcotics went in my body, that by the time God sobered me up, um, that stuff dictated everything I said, did, who I hung out with, how I made money, and it just owned me, and I couldn't get out. And I've been set free a day at a time because of a loving God. And I have found, I'll tell you on the front end, that my effort to seek God will never go unrewarded. And I'm very grateful for this gift of sobriety. My separation from alcohol wasn't, and other substances is Cocaine Anonymous. I can tell you, without worrying about traditions here, I used heroin for a long time. Used cocaine. I hate weed. I smoke weed. I think it was a waste of time. I can never roll a joint. I just didn't know how to do that. I used to make these pregnant joints where the center was all puffy and there was seeds in the weed. I says, I just give me a double vodka. And what I really like to do is eat pills and use narcotics. The more numb I can get to life, the better I was. I would do a lot of, I did a lot of speed too and coke. And the problem is your jaw winds up over here for some reason. And you talk way too fast and make too many promises. And when I throw alcohol on there, I think I'm going to bed with Bo Derek, and I always wake up next to Bo Deadly, and it never worked out. But June 23rd, 1988, my separation, it wasn't, as I said, a day where I'm going to walk into, 12-step fellowship and get free. It just wasn't like that. You're looking at a guy who is still broken and flawed. And there was a time where I thought, because I'm sober, I should no longer be broken and flawed. And I fought that. I'm in a place where I embrace that. It's how God designed it. It's what we identify with when we share with each other our brokenness, that shared brokenness, what it was like getting in here and what we're like now. And it's a greater dependence for me to have on God. Because as soon as I think I got it and I'm perfect and everything's okay, I don't need you, nor do I need God. And what I do is walk right back into the sleeping giant who's looking to pounce on me. So a day at a time, I get this reprieve. But my separation in 1988, quite frankly, was a separation like two guys fighting in a bar, got to be pulled apart before someone gets seriously hurt. And for me, God had to intervene and separate me. At the end of my journey out there, it was alcohol and Valium. I could not get away from it, no matter how much I tried. And what was really frightening, no matter how many pills I ate or how much I drank, I couldn't get to that place that's indescribably wonderful anymore. In 1988, I was using not to go into a withdrawal. I was going through pill withdrawal and booze withdrawal, very similar. And that's what I was basically fighting off, not to be sick. And I had been through six treatment centers by the time 1988 came around here in the States. And uh, most of them with a 30-day inpatient lockdown facility. You know, your life's not going well, guys. You know, your life's not going well when your side of the door does not have a doorknob. That's a good sign that things aren't going too well. And I'd walk into these facilities, and my side of the door never had a doorknob. And I would do 30 days in there. My fifth treatment center, I was in there for 9 weeks. And I would sober up and clean up and bathe and shave and eat and go to group and therapy and go to the fitness center and all these lovely things. And I'd be drunk in an hour. So by the time 1988 rolled around, I was living in the streets. I was homeless. I was quite literally a bum. And I lived in an abandoned building in lower Manhattan, New York City, in an area we refer to as Alphabet City. It was a really sordid spot. You had junkies, you had the winos, you had the crackheads when that stuff hit, and the neighborhood basically blew up. It was not a good place to be, and a lot of abandoned buildings and things like that. Some of you guys may have seen clips from, the South Bronx in New York in the 70s, what that looked like. It was a hellhole, and the poor folks who had to live there and couldn't get out. Well, that's where I was in that type of environment, and I felt safe in the back of an abandoned building hallway. Um, I, at the time, weighed on a good day 130 pounds. I'm about 200 and change right now. I had hepatitis C. I'm urinating blood. And I don't know the last time I got in a shower and bathed or had a square meal. My life revolved around panhandling, getting money to the liquor store, cop some pills, and go disappear somewhere. And then that's pretty much how I lived for a long time. And my family locked doors on me. They didn't want anything to do with me, and I couldn't blame them. If I suffered from, a clinical depression or some other illness, albeit they might get frustrated, but they could understand that. But there came a point living the life that all of us were in, even loved ones begin to hate us for what we're doing to ourselves and how we're tearing up their lives. And anyone who's ignorant, who's unaware of addiction and alcoholism, thinks that if we just get enough willpower, met the right person, my family would say, just grow up and be a man, we'd be okay. And they don't get it because I would curse myself for being a weakling and less than a man because I couldn't stop. I just couldn't stop. Treatment and jail did not stop me from using. The one power and the only power that got me to stop using, intervenes, separated me, and keeps me stopped now is God. Nothing less than that great fact. And I will never, ever, ever hide that in a closet because I'm afraid of offending someone. If someone gets offended by God, you're just offendable. I'm sorry. Welcome to the NFL. So I'm very grateful to where God brought me. And in 1988, I'm laying in this hallway and I couldn't take the pain anymore. Folks, it wasn't the physical pain, it was the emotional bottom. And I've heard enough stories in my day. I've had a few birthdays in recovery. It's the emotional bottom that gets our attention. And I've learned that God, whether I'm drunk or sober, will create an environment for me, will put me in the middle of set of circumstances that I truly believe with my mind is a is punishment for what I've been doing or not doing, and it's quite frankly God's love to get my attention over and over and over again. If any of us have children, we'll give them a timeout, and they hate us for that moment, but it's to teach them, to instruct them, because we love them. And God's mercy is even greater than mine or anyone else's. So I'm lying on this floor, and I will tell you in the back of this hallway, and I come to the realization that I reek. I haven't bathed in a long time, and I felt frail. I touched how frail I really was, and what my life has turned into. Picking up a drink at 14 years old in New York, where I was born and raised, and winding up a homeless bum. I mean, how did I get there? The first drunk was euphoric, and this is a nightmare. How did I get here? I have a police record. I have 6 treatment centers under my belt. No one wants to even fly over me at this point. And it wasn't because I was a tough guy. I was far from that. I was just, if I got involved in your life, it was going to get tricky right away and messy. And how did I get here? Now, I share this for a couple of reasons. One reason this, because my assignment is about growing and understanding and effectiveness with 10 and 11 specifically. I didn't walk into AA. I want to find the Lord and I love the Lord. In fact, it was quite the opposite. I'm a cradle Catholic, but I despise God. Growing up, my mom taught me about God and how much He loves me, and pointed to the carpenter and all these wonderful things. And when I was a kid, it kind of worked, I guess. But my mom was a narcotic user and an alcoholic and committed suicide, and I wondered about this God. My dad was I'll just say he was a tough guy from the streets, and the crowd he ran with were even tougher. And there was no warm and cozy fireside chats with Dad and I. It was rough, and I was molested in ages 8 to 10. So, like, where is this God? And when my mom died, I began to despise God. I hated God. I was never an atheist. I just knew God was cruel. And if I depend upon God, I'm just weak and cowardly. And my belief system back then, quite frankly, was God is for women and children. God isn't for men. Men have to be men. And so I land in this hallway in 1988, and the very same God I despised, I mocked, I loathed, I hated, was the very same God, in Him creating an environment for me that I turned to and asked for mercy. And it was the God I said, please take me from this. I don't want to die. Now we live life forward and understand it backwards. And, I didn't know what was happening to me back then, but it was the beginning of a new life. And I'm so grateful that I didn't go to God and petition and say, listen, you need to put me in a detox, then you need to put me in treatment, then you need to put me in a 12-step fellowship. And I could do 90 meetings in 90 days to be Moses on Monday morning. It wasn't like that at all. I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know anything about recovery. I know nothing about life. I just don't want to die. And God took me from that scrap heap in the back of this abandoned building and placed me in my 7 treatment center, and used my dad, rest his soul, as my guardian angel to accomplish this, to get me into my 7th treatment center, and then get me to the Midwest place called in Minnesota, where I heard a message of recovery for the first time, albeit it was being spoken about all the time. But what God did for me right from the get go, guys, was close the ears to the mind and open up the ears to the soul. And I can be in recovery for a long time and go way beyond being restless and discontented. I've been there because I'm seeing through the mind, I'm speaking through the mind, I'm hearing through the mind, I'm behaving through the mind, and that's always wrong. It's a failed system, it's broken. It's like having a virus in your computer. It doesn't work. And what God will do is shut that down and allow me to operate out of the soul, which is always perfect. It's always right. I'm not perfect. I'm not right, but the soul is. And I start to get meshed with that. And suddenly I'm traveling light. I knew nothing about that back then. I just knew I can't take this pain in my soul anymore. And the only place to turn was to God. And I entered my 7 treatment center, but the desire to stop drinking was there, and the desire to continue drinking was there. And I'm out of jumping. I want to stop maybe tomorrow. I got to stop now. And it was just torture. And what they did for me, they sent me from New York to the Midwest in Minnesota. I wound up being away for a whole year in a treatment center kind of environment for a whole year. And they took me to outside meetings. And H and I brought meetings into the facility, bless their hearts. And again, I was hearing something. And when I saw these recovering people come in, I was seeing something different for the first time. I was seeing something for the first time, I should say, that was different. You guys look glossy. You guys look shiny. You guys look clean. You guys spoke different. You guys had hope. You guys had jobs and families and relationships that you were involved with. And I wanted to get that. How do I get there? Because I got nothing. My own family wants nothing to do with me. I didn't have a career to go back to, a wife or a girlfriend. It was zip, nothing. I just knew I needed to get this. I don't know where to start. But God, what God does when He hears those pleas and sincere, He puts people in our path. When we look back on some of those folks when we knew they were angels, and they connect the dots for us. And little by slowly, I began to pray as people told me to pray. And I remember the first time I prayed on bended knee, I thought the earth was going to swallow me up. How dare I pray to God after all I've done? He didn't do anything like that. He embraced me. And then I got a sponsor, and this journey began. And I'll just tell you quickly to qualify myself. I know when an addict and alcoholic says quickly, you're usually there for about 4 hours, but I promise I will be as quick as God allows me. I pick up a drink at 14 years old. It was euphoric. It was Colt 45 beer, and it changed my life. For the very first time in my life, I felt I was put back together and I was okay, and the world was great. Prior to that, life hurt. I was insecure, fear based, selfish, and self centered. I presented well on the outside, but inside I was tore up from the floor up before my first drunk. And when I got loaded, I didn't want it to end. I was able to pack into the stream of life. I felt good about me. I felt good about a lot of things. The pain of losing my mom disappeared momentarily, and I never wanted to be sober again. I want to stay drunk for eternity. And I began to pursue that elusive feeling into jail and institutions after institution after institution. And the trapdoors have trapdoors. And my first drunk was on a Saturday night, and I was drinking on weekends, and that progressed into drinking a lot. And I got introduced to, oh God, I was around 18. I got introduced in, to heroin and cocaine, actually, what they called a speedball back in the day. And I remember snorting heroin, and I threw up immediately. And I liked the cocaine because I could drink as much as I want. I could just drink and drink and drink, but I didn't like what it always did to me or who I would wind up with. It was a little too fast. And what I really enjoyed was snorting heroin. And one day somebody said to me, "You're wasting your money," and gave me a syringe and got me off. And I thought I died and went to heaven. And that was my journey for a number of years with whiskey, pills, and heroin. And when I could afford to get some cocaine, I like to mix that in the syringe, and off I go. And it was a quick decline into a living hell. And you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. I've heard crackheads say putting, kitty litter in the pipe because they thought it was a rock, and snorting anything you can, and shooting anything you can, and drinking whatever I can. And this is my life now. And around 19 years old, I get into my first treatment center. The bottom was that quick. And I did 28, 30 days in treatment and left and got drunk in an hour. And this is how it went. So by the time 1988 rolls around, in serious trouble. I put the narcotics down after my fifth treatment center, but whiskey and pills I couldn't release. And I don't know why. When I got sober in 1988, I was the same kid at 14 years old, hanging out in New York on the street corner with the older guys where life hurt and it was problematic and I was scared to death. I walk into recovery at 28. I am still operating out of that place. I still had unresolved trauma that needed to get fixed. And what I've learned about that, for those of us who suffer trauma, if we don't fix that, we operate out of it. We go into the world based on what happened to me at 8 or 9 or 10 or 11. And I can make all the meetings in the world I want. It's not going to resolve that. So I had to seek outside help and a whole lot of God to heal that part of me. And so I get a sponsor when I was in Minnesota and I came back to New York and I found another sponsor. And this gentleman, by the way, was not well received in a lot of the meetings in New York. And I'll tell you why, because he operated out of the big book. Any problem I went to him, he said, let's go to page whatever. And a lot of the home group members would don't drink and go to meetings people. And they didn't like the big book. Maybe they weren't really alcoholics. I don't know. But I love them because he took me in a journey towards the steps and taught me about prayer and meditation right out of the gate. I didn't even do a third step, and he had me meditating already, albeit at a beginner's level. But I was already learning about the sacred silence that I need to go into darkness to see and silence to hear. I knew nothing about that. And he put me on a timer, 1 minute. And it felt like eternity, and then 2 minutes, and so on. Looking forward to meditation. Part of part of this journey, it talks about it in the St. Francis prayer about self. Me. In fact, I'm the most important person wherever I go. And the real healing part is self-forgetting. But what I've learned is self-forgetting doesn't equate to self-neglecting. In fact, I take care of myself better when I'm not from me, but from me. The first sponsor, and I'm starting to learn for the first time what I'm up against is threefold illness that only God could and would if he was sought, that no human power is going to relieve me of this. Love for children, love for a spouse, love for siblings, not going to do it. That the only remedy here was for me to put my hand in God's hand. How am I going to do that? And the 12 steps were the shortest distance between 2 points. They were going to bring me to this God of my own understanding. And my job is to grow in understanding and effectiveness with that. But there was a lot of blockage between me and God. Old perceptions, conceptions, ideas, attitudes, and emotions. And 4 through 9 ripped that all away. I was challenged in step 4 when I was writing, and I was further challenged in step 5 when I was sharing. My sponsor would challenge me throughout. Every time I've done a fifth step, sponsors have challenged me about getting a little bit clearer on what I did to participate in this, how I even caused it. And my fourth column was really, really uncomfortable, but I got to see me on paper. What I tended to do in early recovery was treat the results of my alcoholism and addiction rather than getting to causes and conditions of it. I got to get the problem. It's just putting a band-aid on a wound that won't stop bleeding. What I needed to do was go in order to go out. Because if I don't go in, I'll go without. And that was the journey, and it was incredibly uncomfortable at times. So I go through the steps and I'm making amends and things are kind of cleaning up and I'm able to look the world in the eye and I'm starting to travel light. I'm not ashamed to go in certain places. I'm not worried if John or Mary turn the corner because I'm up to date with amends and I start to feel a lot different about life. I'm starting to not be afraid anymore. I'm starting to not feel dirty anymore. I'm starting to pack into the stream And what happened? My relationship with this power called God felt different. One quick story. As I said earlier, I'm a cradle Catholic, and I really wasn't a member of my church. I'd go occasionally and walk out. I go occasionally and critique everyone. I should be doing it. I'm in AA. I can do a better job than the priest. And none of these people are really practicing these principles. And I would take everyone's inventory. And I stopped going. While I'm a member of a 12-step fellowship, and while I'm talking a whole bunch about God, I'm never going to his house. And I'm in the middle of a fifth step, and I'm reading where it talks about resentments with institutions, yeah? And I read something like this: resentment, Catholic Church, cause. Have you had this grudge for with the Catholic Church? And I pushed right back, and I pleaded my case. And he listened. And then he gave me something that I'll never forget. He says, I'm going to ask you some questions, Peter, which usually means the sponsor has you cornered when they do stuff like that. And he says, do you go to meetings? I said, yeah. Are all of them good meetings? I said, no. Have you ever known someone to get a coin and celebrate an anniversary that you knew was high or drunk? And you practice love, tolerance, forgiveness, and acceptance, and bring the solution. I says, yeah. He's, how come you can't do that with your church? And there was dead silence on the phone because he had me. He says, sounds to me like you got some more inventory to write. You need to go to your priest there and make amends for this stuff on all your slandering and gossiping. And I walked in and I sat with a priest in my Catholic church, and I told him I'm a member of Alcoholics Anonymous, and here's why I'm here. I need. And we talked a little bit, which is not very common in this kind of setting that I was with him. And I says, what can I do to make it right? Which was part of step 9. And he says, can you come to the Mass tomorrow morning? And so I went to Mass to finish my amends. And then my life changed because I felt like I was at home and I was right with God. I'm not telling anyone to have to do anything with their religious community. I'm just telling you, have a guy here that went back on an amends, and my life has been lit up. I do it along with, not instead of, my recovery. But my life has never been the same. My relationship with God has never been the same. It does not come in a bottle of whiskey. My alcoholism sits right up here in the head. My addiction, all substances, and booze is a problem, does not lie in the powder or the liquid. It's right here. And I sober up and it's still here. And this is a mind that will pay any price tomorrow to seek comfort right now. It could be food, sex, gambling, you name it, it'll do it. Just to seek comfort because I'm really edgy. And I just think I'm having a day. Many of us have bad days, but not that bad. And I have bad day after bad day after bad day after bad day, and it's always someone else's fault. I need to go back to school, get a new career, get a new relationship, and the problem is me. And seems to be when I start to awaken, really awaken spiritually, no matter what's going on out there, I'll agree and disagree. We can all agree right now the globe is upside down. It's insane in the world right now. And I can attach myself to a political party and ride that horse right into a wall, or I could pray for healing and be part of the solution. I start getting into a lot of spiritual literature along with our big book. And attending religious services often. I became a member of the congregation, if you will, and did service there. And it kind of opened me up. But my assignment is 10 and 11, so I will tell you, starting with step 11, if we look at 10 and 11, they crisscross in the literature. Step 10 is about, the spot check going through the day, yet step 11 talks about going through the day when agitated or doubtful, we pause and ask for the right thought or action. Now I can quote this book. Many of us in this room, I sure can, but I'm always interested in what it looks like currently, what it looks like live. So I will tell you, from my first time I meditated, which was 1 minute and it felt like eternity, and I was usually a getting up at 8 o'clock in the morning guy, 7 o'clock in the morning. I'm up at 5, and I cherish the silence in the morning. And right behind me, I have a little altar, and I go to that altar first thing in the morning. I begin with prayer. Now, what I've learned over the years is that my praying cannot command the Spirit to do anything. But my praying centers me for God to do whatever He wants with me, and I sign up for that. I'll go where you want me to go. I'll do what you want me to do, and I'll say what you want me to say. I'm here to serve. So I say a handful of prayers: third step prayer, seventh step prayer, our Lord's Prayer, serenity prayer, all to get me centered. What I do a lot of is pray for the suffering in the world right now. What I do a lot of is praying for sick and suffering in and out of the rooms. What I do a lot of is praying for other people. I pray for peace in my country. I pray for peace around the globe because it's not peaceful right now. It's unbelievable how everyone thinks they're right and everyone else is wrong. You can never have a handshake with that kind of deal. So I pray for a lot of folks and a lot of things like that. And then I go into sacred silence, and that's meditation. And my 11th step says on awakening. On awakening means on awakening, not like after 6 Red Bulls and a carton of cigarettes. It means on awakening. It doesn't mean I go to Facebook and send some stuff out. Then I go silent because it's too late by then. So it's on awakening. And I'll tell you why. Here's how my mind works. Have you ever awakened first thing in the morning? Your eyes open up and you find yourself right in the middle of a heated argument with someone who died 20 years ago, just before my feet hit the floor. Or maybe you go into prayer meditation, and while I'm in there, I think I'm Moses, and I get up off my knees and get to my car and I turn into Rambo. I mean, these things happen. So I need to be connected with God throughout the day, which is my 11th step tells me to do. And my 10th step is my check. How am I doing? Selfish, resentful, dishonest, fearful. How am I doing? And so I go into a meditation. I have a posture I work with. It's really important. I don't have earbuds in. I don't have my laptop open. Actually, there's nothing going on. I used to listen to meditation music, which is wonderful, and burn incense and sage, which is wonderful. I started to worry about the meditation music, the candles burning, the sage burning, the electric light orchestra performing for me, basically, and I'm paying more attention to that than the soul. So I don't do any of that. In fact, any reading I do is after I'm done with prayer and meditation, because I can get attached to my little readings in the morning too. And I become an idol worshiper. I think if I don't read this, I'm going to have bad luck. That's not prayer and meditation. That's superstition. So I go into about any minimum 10 minutes as long as God wants me in there. I average about 15, 20 minutes in meditation in the morning. I'm getting a little old, and sometimes the back only allow me less time, and the knees are creaky, and I can't stay in long as I want. But the intent is to be there. Yeah. And then I get up off my knees. I sit right here, and I have all my books in the morning. I do some reading, do a workout, do some chores around the house, and by 7:30 ish, I bring my wife her first cup of coffee. She prays and meditates, and we talk about if anything came to us in prayer and meditation before we head out the door. As far as retiring at night, it's a practice that I find for most folks goes by the wayside, but I get meditation time and prayer at night as well, and I do a nightly review. I actually do a lot of inventory still. I'm not glued to the books. My job is ask myself a question: am I worshiping the God that things are pointing to, or the things that God is or the things that get me there? Because I can fall in love with mechanics and worship the mechanics rather than the power they're pointing to. So, but I do write a lot of inventory, and I get to share it with other folks in recovery who also write inventory. And out the door I go, and I come back at night. It's really important that I do this practice. I'll share something with you. I travel a whole bunch on weekends to different conferences, and I got to tell you, there's plenty of times where my flight wheels down at maybe 11 o'clock at night. And by the time you get off the plane and get your luggage, it's Tuesday, you know. And I got about a 30, 40-minute drive from the airport in Fort Lauderdale, Florida to where I am. So sometimes I've walked in the door and it's after midnight, closer to 1 a.m. And the first thing I want to do is shower and get the plane and the airport off of me. And anyone travels, you know it's icky. And I want to get that off of me. I want to spend some time with my wife and have a little snack, and I want to go to bed. I'm exhausted. And so I do all those things, and I get under the covers and I put my head back. I haven't prayed because my mind says, hey, you just did a workshop this weekend, you traveled, you're good to go. And then I put my hand on the pillow, and God has a way of interrupting stuff and ruining my plans and designs. And I'll usually hear something like this. So, Pete, you had a nice weekend? Yeah. Had a nice talk? Yeah. Good friends? I got you on the plane. I got you there safe and came home safe. You didn't get sick. And you came home to a woman you love, had a meal waiting for you. And you have a job to go to tomorrow. So you can't spend 10 minutes with me before you fall asleep. Got it. So I get out of bed and I go pray and meditate. So I realize that I'll do that before I even make plans to get in there and go to sleep. I spend time with God before. And listen, on trips like that, it's not the most eventful time. It's not a 4 hour meditation. I just need to give God thanks. And he's pleased. Thomas Merton says, God, I don't know if I'm pleasing you, but my effort to please you, I know pleases you. It's that important. I work with lots of books, and I'm quick to see where religious people are right. And I don't care what religion they're from anymore. I can learn from anyone. Once I say I know, I stop learning. And I have learned from a lot of folks. I've learned from rabbis. I've learned from people of other religions. I learned from Buddhists. I learned from my priests. I want to know. I'm interested in what their take is. That we're all riding, walking up the same mountain. And we're all on different color horses. One is black, one is white, one is striped, one is polka dot, one is tall, one is short, one is skinny, one is fat. And we're all going to the same place. And what I'm guilty of, what many of us are guilty of, is throwing the other person off the horse because they're different when we're all going to the same place. So I want to know. And if you fall off your horse, I will pick you up and put you on mine. It's just the way God wants me to live. Practice these principles in all my affairs, not just in AA. And God will feed the soul because I get soul food to feed other people. Scripture says something like, if you eat from, I'm going to paraphrase, eat from a bad tree, it bears bad fruit, which means you're going to get sick. But if we eat from a good tree, which bears good fruit, we're going to get well. And my job is to feed people the way you feed me. This is how this works. It's reciprocal. The process of recovery is not linear, but transformational. We can speak to cats with 1 year clean and sober who are lit up, and speak to someone who's got 10 years. We don't even want to have a cup of tea with them. It's really about the soul. So God has turned me on to a lot of wonderful teachers, a lot of information, a whole bunch of books I work with. I still make a lot of meetings. I still insist on having a sponsor that I'm accountable to, and practice fidelity to my God, and I get to experience God's fidelity to me. And this is the most important thing of my life is when I say recovery, it's obviously recovery, but I need to add that the only, for lack of a better word, person I need to please is God. And if I seek to please God, and I get okay with God, I'm okay with me. And if I'm okay with me, I'm so okay with you. And if one of those things are out of line, I'm drunk. So that's my goal. God will displease you. And you're looking at someone who falls short a lot of times. I'm the car when it drives away, leaves an oil spot on the concrete. It's me. My windows squeak, the doors make a funny sound. That's my going around. And if anyone in this room is in their 60s, you know exactly what I'm talking about. We make a lot of noise. But that's how God designed it. My brokenness and my flawed character. It's just not it doesn't infect people anymore. It just gets me back to God for his healing. And I'm very grateful. So I think that's all I got, guys. So thanks for listening. My name is Peter. I'm an alcoholic.